Welcome back to another episode of Pharmacy for the People. I am working some evening shifts this week, so I am getting to record some in the daylight. Isn't that fun? If you're new here, my name is James. I'm a licensed practicing pharmacist, and my goal here is to be a resource for you and your family as you navigate the difficult waters of medical complexity and some of the cultural disillusionment that we pick up all the time. Alright, so today we're talking about how do medications work? How do they do what they do? If you have a headache and you take acetaminophen or Tylenol to make that headache go away, how does that acetaminophen help your head? You take a tablet or a capsule by mouth into your stomach, and somehow it gets up to your head and it does what it needs to do. How does your body know where to send this medication? How does this work? Well, this is not magic. Medication does not work on hopes and dreams. These questions are the basis for two distinct fields of study in medicine: pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. Pharmacokinetics is the field that focuses on how your body affects the medication, how your body acts on a substance that gets inside of it. And then pharmacodynamics is how the substance or the medication acts on your body. You see the difference? It's an active relationship between the body and the medication. They act on each other, and together they create the effects that we see when we casually pop a tablet or a capsule, or take the medication that a physician has asked us to take, or a vitamin, or a meal, or caffeine even. Wake up! Any active substance that goes into our bodies can be viewed through this lens. How does it get to where we need it to go, and then how does it create the effect once it gets there? And then what happens to it? After it's done doing its thing, where does it go? Well, pharmacokinetics, the body acting on the medication, is generally divided into four categories: the absorption, the distribution, the metabolism, and then the elimination or the excretion of the medication. Pharmacodynamics is not subdivided. That is generally just talking about the biochemical action of the medication inside the body at a particular location in the body. We're going to look at each of these components in a lot more detail in later videos, but for today, let's just answer these basic questions. How does medication work? How does a medication work? How does a medication get to where it needs to go? This, of course, depends on where it needs to go, of course. If it needs to go to a visible cut on the skin, like a topical antibiotic ointment, you distribute it where it needs to go with your finger, and then it absorbs through the skin and it does the action right there. But if you're aiming for a target that's deeper than the skin, you almost always have to get into the bloodstream. So how do you do that? If you've got a headache, you take a tablet, Tylenol, by mouth, into your stomach, you swallow it into your stomach, it starts to dissolve in the stomach juices and the water that you swallowed with the tablet, unless you're one of those psychos that takes tablets dry. Once it dissolves down to its most basic form, medication is then absorbed through the lining of your stomach and your intestines, and then into your bloodstream. There are blood vessels very close to the surface here of the gut. This picture shows most of what the large vessels look like, but remember, the smallest blood vessels, capillaries, are far more reaching than this. They're more like this. And you'll notice that on this main picture, the blood vessels to your liver, your stomach, and your gut are conspicuously missing from this picture. But they're there, and there is a lot of them. So it gets absorbed through your gastrointestinal tract into these blood vessels, and then once it's in the bloodstream, it takes a trip through the liver, then into your biggest vein, the vena cava, up to your heart, and then it goes all over your body. That's right, medications do not get shipped to a particular place in your body based on its need. They go everywhere once it's in the bloodstream. You can think of it like company emails. If you work at a company, you get 375 company emails a week, and only 2 of them are actually about your department or about something that matters to you, but it's up to you. It's your job to sort through all these things and determine what matters. And then there's that one guy who always clicks reply all to every single one. This is the same phenomenon when you eat a meal. You chew it up, you swallow it into your stomach, it gets dissolved further there and then absorbed into your bloodstream, and then the carbohydrates, the fats and the proteins, the micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, they go all over your body for your cells to use for different functions. But in the case of the headache, the medication rides the bloodstream express all over your body, including to your head, and arrives in your head ready for action. And the action that we're talking about here is the pharmacodynamic property of that medication. Remember, pharmacodynamics is the drug acting on the body. Most medications have a unique method for exerting the effect, and we call that effect the mechanism of action. If you watch the last video about our bodies and chemicals, these mechanisms of action can be found all over that complicated chart that I showed you at near the end of the video. Mechanisms of action involve the enzymes and the processes and these very subcellular chemical actions that are taking place in our body all the time, right now. But in terms of our headache, let's just keep this simple. Let's just say it is exerting its effect, and let's not talk about the exact mechanism of action for this video. Suffice to say, it works. It reduces the pain in your head by exerting its biochemical effect. But what happens to it? Why do you have to take more medication if your headache is still there later? Like, what happens to the medication? Does it just wear out? Does it get tired and just stop doing its thing? Well, no, they don't tire out like we do. The medication doesn't just stay in your head. It's constantly circulating through the bloodstream. The bloodstream is constantly delivering and then removing things from every place in your body. That's how we eliminate waste in our body. It's also how it moves good things in, bad things out, etc., including medication. So it arrives at the location, it exerts its effect, and then gradually it's going to move itself away. But as long as there is enough of the medication still circulating in your bloodstream, then it's going to be able to exert its effect wherever you need it. But over time, less and less is circulating through your bloodstream. Let me tell you why. Now, for instance, let's say that the reason you have this headache is because there's a flock of screaming children that are running through your home, into the backyard, around the front, and then back through again. And they're just shrieking at the top of their lungs. But every time this little gaggle of children makes a trip through, one of the parents of these little monsters says, "Hey, cut it out. Go over here and sit down. You're in timeout." So every time they go through, let's say there's 15 of them, every time they go through, one parent says sit down, and then there's 14, and then 13, and then over time the noise level drops, and then eventually there's no noise at all, and your headache is better. You can imagine the same thing is true with medication, but instead of going into timeout, your body metabolizes the medication and takes it out of your bloodstream. The bulk of which, this metabolism takes place in your liver cells. So as your blood continually circulates, and delivers and picks up molecules from all over, including delivering and picking up acetaminophen, Tylenol, from your head, the blood continues to circulate through the liver, and a lot of it gets metabolized or filtered out. To metabolize something means to chemically alter the substance. Sometimes it means to make it more water soluble to help it get filtered out with your urine. Sometimes it means making it less water soluble so that it can go into your feces and be excreted that way. Sometimes it just gets changed a little bit and then it keeps doing its action because it's still able to perform its action. Metabolism is a very general term that captures a bazillion chemical reactions and transformations. We'll get into far more detail about that in later videos, but what you need to understand is that when it changes, when your liver changes the medication, it may no longer circulate the way that it did, and so it eliminates it. So the gradual decreasing effect of medication is a function of both metabolism and elimination via feces or urine. And that, in its most basic form, is how medications work. They are absorbed into your body, they are distributed around, they exert their effect, and then they are metabolized and eliminated over time. Each medication, each molecule having a unique way of doing all of these actions. All of them in turn producing these medical effects that we rely on. Lowering our blood pressure, lowering our blood glucose in diabetes, helping to reduce our cholesterol, preventing a second stroke, or just helping with our headache when we get a headache. This is pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics at work. In future episodes, I'm hoping to get into a lot more detail with pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. As you can imagine, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm hoping we can take some medications and break it down step by step through the whole process so we can get a better picture of what's going on and how medications work. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. If you enjoyed this video, then let me know by liking and subscribing. If I stirred up some questions and some conversation topics between you and your family, leave those questions and comments down below. That would be really helpful for me. I really like that. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really hope this helps. Power to the people.